There is a reason why you are called a wage slave. Your boss wants to own you. She wants to control every aspect of your life and force you to submit. And even though she's a little bit right, she is hugely wrong. So let's take a look at how to cope with a controlling boss, and more importantly, how to move on, or plan to move on, to something better. Here is a really common myth. There's only room for one at the top. And that comes from the standard corporate structure. There's a CEO at the top. One person at the top of the heap. But you know, even corporations have to acknowledge that that's a little inaccurate, because they have a whole host of C-suite executives. Vice presidents, executive vice presidents, and they come up with new titles all the time to make you feel more important, to make it seem like you have more authority, to get you to function as a wage slave, so they can get you to buy in even more to doing what it is the corporation wants done. And let's face it, it's more than just bosses. It's more than just your bosses. Okay, there are plenty of co-workers who will try to tear you down and tease you and ridicule you if you are trying to make yourself better or do things. I have run into this repeatedly. You know, something that I do because I like to do it is I read. And I have had lots of occasions where I take a book to work, and my coworkers, you know, it isn't as though I'm sitting there reading rather than doing my job. But a break comes or lunchtime comes, and especially lunchtime, you have a half an hour. So I would sit, open a book and read while I eat. Can't do that. How dare you do anything to even entertain yourself, let alone improve yourself while you're at work? You're just putting on airs. You're just trying to be better than the rest of us. Okay, yeah, maybe I am. Maybe I am trying to be better than just doing concrete, just framing houses, just whatever it was that I was doing. Maybe I want more out of life. And it's okay to want more out of life. Also, if you remember the last episode, we talked about the critic within. So sometimes it is me trying to hold me back. It's my limiting beliefs that crop up and say, you can't do that. You ought not to do that. Oh, you should never do that. And that works to control you, even though it's really not what I want. But if I allow it, it will control me, and it will short-circuit my progress toward success. And all of these things are good to consider. They are all good things to be aware of. But this episode is focused specifically on bosses who want to own us. And I know he's an easy target. I don't mean to use him simply because he is an easy target. But Elon Musk is also very easily recognizable, very easy to research, because he is always managing to get himself into the media. And you might want to consider as well that one of the reasons Elon Musk regularly gets himself into the media is because he is a very insecure individual. And he needs the attention. He needs what he perceives as the validation. Look at me, I'm so important because people are paying attention to me. He completely misses the reality that people are paying attention to me because I'm a jerk. Because I'm doing things that are incredibly negative and even destructive. So I'm going to use two examples, and they both go together, because one is Jack Dorsey, the guy who was running Twitter before Elon purchased it, and Elon. And the thing I'm going to focus on is the whole purchase of Twitter and what happened. There is an article referenced in the primary resources below, so you can print out the article from The Verge and read through it for yourself, see what it is that I'm talking about. And Jack Dorsey is only mentioned briefly in the article, but there is a very distinct difference drawn between the two people. Jack, despite being sort of an absentee landlord kind of owner, believed very much in the same vein as Ford. What was Ford's first name? I forget. Anyway, the guy who made the Ford Motor Company. It'll come to me at some point. So he believed that the smart way to build a business was to surround yourself with very knowledgeable people who actually know more than you do, and rely on them for their input. Ultimately, the decisions are yours to make, but you rely on experts around you, and you surround yourself with people who know more than you do to build the best business that you can. Well, Jack Dorsey followed the same process. He had a bunch of lieutenants, vice presidents, who were responsible for running Twitter, and they did a reasonably good job. Twitter was successful at what it was doing. Then in comes Elon Musk, who has pretty much the opposite attitude. Elon believes that he knows everything, and he has no need to listen to anybody else. And when he took over Twitter, he fired about half the staff right out of the starting gate. That's where I want to highlight the difference between the approaches of these two people. Jack Dorsey, surround myself with people that know what they're doing, tell them what needs to be done, and just let them go do their job. Versus Elon Musk, who, I need to tell everybody everything, and I need to be the person that's in control, and everybody has to answer to me. Completely different attitudes. There is more in the article from The Verge. It's 10 or 12 pages. It is a long article. You can read it to your heart's content. The point here, rather than bashing on Elon Musk or praising Jack Dorsey, is to highlight the two different attitudes. And where we're going to focus is how to deal with somebody who has Elon's attitude, the boss that wants to control you. The idea of, oh, you'll either do what I tell you to do, or I'll just take it as you deciding to quit. Okay, one of the things that Elon did. And again, I'm going to focus this toward people who are in their teens and in their 20s, young adults. I will trust that if you are in your 30s or 40s or 50s or your 80s, that you can take what I'm saying for teenagers and use it for yourself. So here's what I have written in the script. Okay, so let's say right now I'm 15, 17, in my first job. I have no real experience with bosses who want to control me. But when it happens, you recognize that it happens. Okay, it's an uncomfortable feeling. Why do you want to know what I'm doing when I go home? Why do you want to know how much time I'm putting into football or the debating club or anything else? Why are you trying to control what I'm doing when I'm not even here? And when I am here, why are you always looking over my shoulder? All I'm doing is flipping hamburgers. There's a timer right there. There are timers on the various machines so that I know when the coffee is done. I know when the fryer is done. I know when it's time to flip a burger. There's no need for you to be standing next to me watching everything that I do. So you may not have any experience with it, but we all recognize it pretty quickly when somebody is being controlling. The big question, of course, is, okay, now that I've recognized it, what do I do about it? And there are a couple of choices. But there's really only one process. And the first step in the process is recognizing that it is your boss who has the problem. As long as you are doing what it is that you have been instructed to do. So, if the boss has taught you how to flip burgers and you are flipping burgers, you're good. If the boss has to watch you flip burgers, it's the boss with the problem. Let's say you are working at a hardware store or a bicycle store, something along those lines. And I picked that because I'm going to use a bicycle as a specific example. 3 new bicycles come in. The owner of the store sees that these new bicycles have come in and says to you, hey, take those bicycles and put them in the showroom window. That's it. Those are all the instructions. You would be completely correct to take those 3 boxes and put them, box and all, in the showroom window, because that is what you were told to do. However, do you think that that is what the boss actually wants done? Because the whole point of having these bicycles is to sell them. So probably what needs to be done is the bicycles need to be assembled and the assembled bicycle put into the showroom window. So if you get vague instructions, it's worth stopping and saying, excuse me, I'm sorry, do you mean just take these boxes and put them in the window? Or would you like the bicycles assembled and then the assembled bicycle put into the window? Clarify what it is that you are being told to do. If you have a controlling boss, they might be irked by you doing that. Well, of course I meant that! Because how dare you point out that they were somehow incorrect in giving you instructions? Okay. Again, recognize it's them that has the problem. You are doing the right thing. Now you need to decide, okay, do I want to stay here and put up with this? Or do I need to look at moving on to something else? If you do decide that there is something you want to learn, maybe you are at this store precisely because you want to learn how to assemble and maintain a bicycle. Okay. Stay there until you have learned everything that you think is there for you to learn. Then move on to something else. If you look around the job and you think, wow, there is nothing here for me to learn. The only benefit to being here is that I'm getting a paycheck. Okay. And that's a valid thing to do. If you need the revenue coming in, that's a valid thing to do. You are there because you need that paycheck. But that's no reason for you to stay there. And what you need to do is start making a plan to move on to something else. Now, that whole concept of making a plan, we could talk for 6 or 7 hours about that. What I will do, I want to add one thing to this, and it's part of the process. If you are 14, it's part of the process. If you are 50, it is part of the process. Start looking at what you can do for a side gig. In my case, when I was a youngster, I did a paper route. That, because your gig, if you were 13, 14, 15, if you are in high school, then your gig is going to school, get an education. Doing something like a paper route or an after-school job is a side gig. I recommend that you find something you can do that allows you to be your own boss. That can be difficult to find. If you are living in downtown Chicago, maybe finding something to do, that allows you to be your own boss is pretty difficult. Right away it comes to mind, Mark Cuban tells a story about his first thing was that he went around selling garbage bags. Somehow his father, I think, got a shipment of garbage bags. It might have been a neighbor, but somebody got a big shipment of garbage bags and sold the garbage bags to Mark for, say, $3 a roll. Mark went out and sold it to all of his neighbors and everybody in the neighborhood for $5 a roll. Now, if you are in the south side of Chicago, that might be something that's not going to work, because the south side of Chicago is a rough neighborhood. On the other hand, if you are in Nome, Alaska, and I have no idea how big a town Nome, Alaska is, but if you are in a very small town, okay, Paris, Ontario. Paris, Ontario only has, I think, 400 people in it. So it might be kind of hard to sell a whole shipment of garbage bags to the people living in Paris, Ontario. So you do have to find something that's suitable to you. And that might be working for your mom or dad at their firm. It might be working at like a McDonald's or something along those lines. It might be working on a neighbor's farm, doing stuff there. But try to find a side gig. And I have 4 things marked down that a side gig can give you. 1 is extra income, obviously. 2, as you grow older, that side income is going to provide you with deductions, tax deductions. So 1, right off the bat, if you have a room with a door that closes that is your office, and it accounts for 10% of the square footage of where you live, then 10% of all the bills, hydro, electricity, gas, rent, mortgage, all those things, 10% of it can be written off as a business expense. And I realize if you're 14, you're living at home. But on the other hand, if your parents, for example, give you the garage as a workshop to do things in, then your parents can write off the square footage of the garage as a business expense. Doing a side gig gives you a larger network of contacts. Even at 13, 14, 15, you're building a larger network. And it gives you both wider and deeper, more and broader experience. So definitely think of doing something on the side in addition to whatever your main gig is, whether that's being a student, or you have a job, you go to that job 40 hours a week, do something else on the side. Okie doke? My guess is you're going to have a ton of questions after this, but I'm trying to keep these short. So please, absolutely, questions, comments, thoughts, anything like that, put them below in the comments section. I love to read comments, and I really look forward to being able to give you responses to some of the things that you ask. Actually, no. Give you responses to all of the things that you ask. With the caveat that some of the answers might be, you know what, I don't know. But here's where you can find out. Here's how to do the research to find an answer to that. Okie doke? Cool. Hope you like this. If you do, please hit the thumbs up, give me a subscribe. Those are great YouTube metrics. They really help build success there. And I look forward, hopefully, that you are watching the next video. Bye-bye.